Hello slimy fertilers, slightly different sort of video here for you today. Doing a voiceover or trying to. Apologies for the sound quality. I did have a half decent microphone somewhere and I just can't find it at the minute, so I'm having to use the little dot microphone thing on my laptop, which produces sound of rather dubious quality. So if you can hear me, well done, you've got awesome ears. If not, oh well, there's not much I can do about that at the minute. So yeah, I've seen this video flopping around over the past couple of days on a couple of the Remoaner type websites, making various claims and stuff like that, so I thought I'd just go through and have a little chat about some of the things that they're saying. So here we go.
I don't exist.
Well, yeah, quite clearly you do, love. I mean, you're there on the screen in front of me with some black tape over your mouth, trying to make out that you didn't have a fucking voice, which you did, and unfortunately there were more voices than yours that disagreed with you, so nice try.
I am one.
Ah, yes, but are you the one? The problem is here is that the subject they're talking about is that unfortunately, being one person doesn't, make you an island. It's majority, I'm afraid. That's how democracy works, and this is one of the things that a lot of people that are, the Remoaner side of the Brexit debate just don't seem to grasp, and they're still not grasping.
Of an entire population
That the government says does not exist.
No, it's not that the government says that you don't exist. It's that the government, seems to be under the rather strange impression that you're actually accepting that you lost the debate, and that you've just decided to grow up and get on with it. Very clearly, you're not doing that, and it's like I say, you just don't grasp the basic concept of democracy. Democracy isn't there to please everybody, because pleasing everybody is quite frankly impossible. So it doesn't matter whether you say, I'm one of a citizenry or whatever that the government says doesn't exist. You had your say, and unfortunately you lost.
I am a citizen of nowhere.
No, if you actually voted in the referendum, that means you're a citizen of the Great Britain, or the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Just because you've lost doesn't mean that you have lost your citizenship. It just means that you're on the losing side of a debate that everyone in the country was invited to take part in. Nobody's stripped you of your citizenship. No, and I very much doubt that it's very likely that anybody is going to strip you of your citizenship unless you've given it up, unless you've renounced your citizenship, or that you were never a citizen to begin with, in which case, why have you not been deported? Because, unfortunately, unless you've applied for asylum or permanent resident status, you won't be getting citizenship anytime. So, it's one or the other, I'm afraid.
I am one.
Of 29 million people that did not vote for this.
Yeah, that figure's not real, is it? 29 million people? No. The total amount of people who voted Remain was 16,141,241. So you're one of 16,141,241. Why they've arrived at that figure is they've basically taken the people who were eligible to vote minus the number of people who voted to leave, and then said, right, that the remainder didn't want to leave. No, the remainder who didn't vote Remain were people who basically didn't vote, weren't able to vote, or refused to vote. Big difference there. You can't lump them in with you and say, well, we didn't vote for this, because people have reasons for not voting, or, it's like I say, people sometimes may not be able to vote or weren't aware that they could vote. But to quote the figure as 29 million is extremely disingenuous. And it's borderline lying, so, Remain campaign tells lies once again.
I didn't vote for this.
Again, we have another Remoaner who doesn't understand how the democratic process works. It's, I didn't vote for this. Well, unfortunately, the side that you voted for lost. Tough. That's just how it goes. I didn't vote for a Conservative government. I'm stuck with one, and there's nothing I can do about it. That's just how voting process goes. You want to go live somewhere else that has a system where they try and please everybody. It doesn't matter what you vote, you get what you want anyway. Please tell me where it is, because I'm not aware of any such country on the face of the earth. Unless you're some sort of alien. I mean, there might be alien planets out there that do that, but I don't think anybody's aware of any at the minute. So it doesn't matter whether you voted for it or not. It's not happening. What you want isn't going to happen.
For price hikes.
Indeed, I don't think anybody voted for price hikes at all. It's just that if you look at the figures of the price of the British pound sterling just before the election, for some reason it went on an unprecedented hike. This was down to currency speculators, basically. After the Leave vote was, after the Leave vote was returned as the winning vote, the price of the pound started going back down again, and it went right down, and then it started climbing steadily up again. The FTSE has climbed as well since the voting day last year. So a lot of the price hikes that are knocking about aren't actually valid ones. It's not like the pound has been fully devalued until the entire stock market and economy has crashed. It's just that a lot of people are actually using it as an excuse to increase prices, and that's down to the business owners. That's not down to Brexit or anything like that, or anything the government's done. So to claim otherwise is again shows rather crude and in some cases very disingenuous view of how statewide economics works.
Or hate crimes.
Again, no, I don't think anybody voted for hate crimes either. Either on the Remain or the Leave side. But unfortunately, yes, there was a spike in hate crimes reported in the UK. Unfortunately, it seems that a lot of the hate crimes that come in aren't actually proper hate crimes. Not in the sense that it's being made out here. We have this guy, this Asian-looking guy. I don't know if he's supposed to be Indian or Pakistani or whatever. But from using him, it's basically obvious that they're trying to make out that there's been a massive increase in violence against people of along racial grounds. This isn't exactly strictly true, and it has been shown that there have been people who have reported hate crimes who have just made them up. But no, it is undeniable that there have been genuine ones, and a lot of genuine ones, and that's unfortunate. But that's I mean, it's not nice to say that that's just one of the things you have to put up with, because it isn't. Nobody should have to put up with anything like that. But nobody voted for that. You do get idiots that will go out and start doing stuff like that, and there's been videos showing people hurling racist abuse at people for no apparent reason other than that they are racist. But it happened. That used to happen anyway. It's just that for some reason after the referendum, people seem to people who have that kind of mindset seem to think that it was okay to do that now, and it never has been, and probably never will be. Hopefully it never will be anyway. So they do actually have a little bit of a point here, which I can conceive that. I do agree with them. There has been that. So next bit.
Lose my funding.
To lose your funding for what exactly? I'm assuming this is something to do with the kind of European science grant things, which as has been outlined in the plan for Brexit, we will still pay into scientific projects that are of interest or what are of benefit to Great Britain as a whole once we leave the European Union. And I mean, I'm not being funny, but there's a lot of scientific work goes off without any kind of government grants or funding, anything like that. It takes place within the private sector. But unfortunately, a lot of the private sector stuff wants results and wants to make sure that they're getting a decent return on their investment, which the kind of science done by these kind of grant-funded research experiments and things like that tend not to do that much. There are some places that will quite happily fund, based in the UK, that will quite happily fund scientific investigation and research. It just depends what exactly it is that you're looking for, though. So, I don't think anybody voted to strip scientific funding from people either, but, it's not something that was quite high on the list of concerns at the time.
To lose my business.
Right, not being funny here, but if you lose your business just because there's a slight change in the economic market, then that means your business wasn't very stable to begin with. If you've got a business whose customer base is based purely around shipping things to the European Union, from the UK to the European Union, and you lose your business, you had a rather shaky and unstable business model to start with. But that said, there will be nothing stopping, business owners who do that from shipping and doing contract work and things like that with European Union countries. So to say that, just because we're going to leave the European Union, people are going to lose their businesses, what they want the state to prop up business. It doesn't work like that. The state isn't your man. The state isn't, for a long time people have said about the nanny state, the state propping up failing businesses and things like that. It's something that we can't do anymore. There's been numerous businesses, for example, Royal Bank of Scotland is owned about 70% of it is owned by the taxpayer, and it's hemorrhaging money. The amount of money the government put into it, and they're not getting their investment back. That's basically a ball and chain that the government could do without. So for somebody to expect that the government is going to bail them out because their business is failing is quite frankly it's there's some sort of entitled, unwarranted self-importance, and it goes to show how people's relationship with the European Union has become so codependent that they don't know how to stand on their own 2 feet anymore, which is a shame.
To lose my job.
Now this is the thing. Prior to the referendum, the Remain side were saying that thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of jobs will be lost if Britain came out of the EU. But it hasn't rung true. A lot of the companies that prior to the referendum were saying they'd pull out of the country if Britain did come out of the EU or voted to come out of the EU, they've said, well, no, we're going to stay. So I'm unsure where. Obviously some people will lose their jobs. That's unfortunate. But then again, a lot of people lost their jobs when the credit crunch started, which again was something that wasn't caused by the people, by the general public. It was caused by the banks, and the banks demanding that the government hold them up and things like that. It was also caused by bankers being too greedy, but yet there's been no prosecutions about that. So, I do feel for people when they lose their jobs, but unfortunately, in this day and age, losing a job has become part of life. I've lost jobs several times due to companies not doing very well and having to close down. I've been laid off, made redundant, and everything like that, and so have a lot of people I know. But to blame it just simply on the fact that we've decided to take control over our own country again is ludicrous. It's as though people expect to keep their jobs in what is a very uncertain economic climate that we have here that wasn't created by us. And if you lose your job, it's not the people's fault for wanting out of the EU. It's the fact that your employers are either too shaky, base the business on too shaky a business model, or the fact that they're just being spiteful. I don't know.
To lose my rights.
Okay, this is one that was bandied around before the referendum. That to lose my rights. What rights exactly? What rights are going to be taken away from you? I noticed they're using a woman here. But yeah, as yet, there's nobody said, we're going to be curbing back on women's rights. In fact, they've said the exact opposite. They're saying that basically all rights that you currently have will be maintained. The only people who've lost any rights so far this week are disabled people, because the criteria for things like disability living allowance, things like that, are to be changed to basically stop people from being able to claim disability benefits, which is disgusting. But nobody else is losing any rights. There are no, there's nothing being said about taking rights away from women. There's nothing being said about, not protecting rights for homosexuals anymore. So quite where they get this from, I don't know. And again, it's just one of those things that the Remainers, that they did as part of what ended up being called Project Fear. And as I said at the time before, there are no plans to set up concentration camps or extermination programs. So again, this is one where it's a completely baseless accusation.
To lose my neighbour.
My friends.
My family.
To lose my what relevance is that? I'm not being funny, but what relevance is that? They've announced that basically from the time that we leave the EU, people who are on, that we will no longer issue permits for people from the EU to claim permanent residency. They just have to apply for a visa like everyone else. So if your neighbour is somebody from the EU, then they would just have to apply for a visa like everyone else and say, I would like to stay in this country for because reasons. And a lot of them, even if they've been living here a long time, they can always apply for British citizenship. Yeah, it's not that hard. You can apply for British citizenship and stay here as long as you want. But what they're trying to do here is make out that we're going to be having mass forced deportations, again with the concentration camps and the rounding up of people. And it's not going to happen. I know they really want it to happen, which is quite scary, really, that the people who claim to be, all peaceful and wanting to get into a big group hug, are sat there fantasising about concentration camps and people being deported en masse and killed and everything like that, and it's stupid.
My belief in politicians.
Okay, so this is a good one. My belief in politicians. What exactly are you expecting of politicians? You don't have to vote for them. This is the thing. You personally don't have to. You could stand as a candidate yourself. You could stand as a candidate on your local council, join a political party that you agree with, stand as an MP, work your way up in the party. But say to lose my belief in politicians, again, the Remain and the Leave sides were made up of politicians from all sides of the political fence. Some from Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, everything like that. There were a mixture of everybody on both sides. So to say that you've lost your belief in politicians is just because you didn't get what you wanted is absurd. I bet you don't agree with politicians 100% of the time anyway, regardless of the Brexit debate. So to try and hold this one up as a kind of a gotcha, this has happened, I've lost my faith in the political system. The political system isn't there to benefit you and you only, it's to benefit everyone. That's why we have the democratic process. We voted, Leave won, there's nothing you can do about it. End of.
In democracy.
Again with the I've lost my faith in democracy, when quite clearly they don't understand how democracy works. Do you think democracy only works to service you personally, or you and your friends? It doesn't. You're one vote in a pool of about 65 million people that live in this country, of whom I think about 50,000 are actually eligible to vote. In fact, no, it's not. It's about 44,000 eligible to vote, because everybody else between the 44 and the 65 are unable to vote due to not being British citizens on not being old enough to vote. So to say that you've lost your faith in democracy because you didn't get what you wanted is childish and stupid.
For brutal Brexit.
No, mate. If we were going to have a brutal Brexit, then the day after the referendum we would have said, right, we're just leaving the EU, that's it. We're not going to enter any kind of discussions or anything. That would have been a brutal Brexit. That would have been the ultimate hard Brexit. Instead, what they're doing at the moment is they're discussing what kind of things. I mean, we haven't even triggered Article 50 yet. That's supposed to happen sometime around about the end of March to start the 2-year process, which will set out the pathway to severing all ties with the EU, or severing some ties with the EU. See, the problem with some of them is that they're now saying, yeah, all right, well, we'll sever ties with the EU, but we're going to keep this, we're going to keep this, we're going to keep this, we're going to keep... To the point at which we're not actually going to leave the EU, we're just going to, remove things, little bits and bobs of no consequence, and that we're still going to have, the EU ruling council, or whatever they're called, deciding things for us. The exit might not be, the final plan might not be what everyone wants, especially some of those who did vote leave might not be terribly impressed with it. But it's like I say, we are severing ties with an organisation, basically a kind of supranational trading and overarching administration thing that we've been involved with since the early 70s, well, before the early 70s actually. Because we did have a referendum before to decide whether we should stay in what was called the EEC then, or the Common Market as it was, and people back in the 70s said, yeah, might as well, but then when we've had the same question asked again, people have said, no, it's not working out now, so let's leave. So to make the claim that just because we voted leave means that we're just going to sever all ties immediately is again, that's not going to happen. So again, it's basically a completely disingenuous statement they're trying to push off as fact, and they know damn well it's not true.
I didn't vote for this.
We didn't vote for this.
Again, tough shit. You voted on the side that lost the referendum. You don't see, there's got to be a winner and a loser, and in this case, the losers are now moaning that they didn't win. And it's like, that's fine, you can say, I'm disappointed that we didn't win. But then to start going, we lost, but we still want our way. And that's not how it works. It's like I said earlier, if you can point me to a country where they operate on a system where basically they go out, the government's responsibility is to completely please everybody, please everybody 100% of the time, and then the people that always get what they want, I'd love to live in that country. But there isn't one. It doesn't matter where you look in the world or which political system you compare it to, you're not going to find one. Tough. Life's tough, and this is one of those times when the people who are moaning have been basically confronted with the fact that, sorry, but your feelings are going to get hurt sometimes, and a lot of them can't handle it. And they're just going to moan and cry and bitch like children until hopefully, they get what they want. But it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Let's say I didn't particularly want a Conservative government in power after the last general election. And a lot of people didn't want a Conservative government in after the last general election, but we've ended up with one somehow. So if people disagreed with that so much, how do we get them out? Oh, we have to wait for the next general election to get rid of them. Or we could stage an uprising and start a civil war. Are we going to do that over Brexit? Doubt it, because people just haven't got the balls to fucking do it anymore. They just want to sit there and moan. Tough. Want to do something about it? Get off your arse. Get off your arse and make a fucking difference.